नमो नमः। काव्यशास्त्र विनोदेन कालो गच्छति धीमतां व्यसनेन तु मूर्खाणां निद्रया कलहेन वा. The learned people spent their time in the study of scriptures, arts, poetry, literature. Kavya Shastra Vinodena Kalo Gacchati Dhimatam. In contrast, the foolish people spent their time in creating discord amongst people, Nidraya in sleep, Kalahena, Nidraya, Vyasanena, in indulging in vices, in sleep, and in idle gossip, and in creating discord amongst people. It is said that Lord Ram, during his exile, he spent all his time in the company of the great rishis. He spent time with Bharadwaja, Atri, and then Dandakaranya. We know that he spent all his time visiting the sages, and he would ask them about, he would question them as to what is the right way of living, on governance, on righteousness. So he spent all his time. His idea was to try and absorb as much as he could from these great rishis and munis. So that is how he spent his time during the time of his exile. In contrast to this, I am reminded of a story from Bhagavad Puran. Samba was the son of Krishna and Jambavati. Jambavati, who was the daughter of Jambavan the bear from the Treta Yuga. So this lad Samba was quite a notorious fellow. Once the great sages Narada, Durvasa and a few others, they had come to Dwaraka to visit Krishna and Balram. So Samba, along with a few other Yadava youngsters, decided to play a prank on the rishis. So Samba was dressed up like a woman and presented before the rishis. And they asked the rishis, is this woman going to give birth to a boy or a girl? The rishis, who could see through the prank, were really furious, and they decided to teach them a lesson. And one of them said, oh, this lady is going to give birth to an iron mortar and pestle, just watch. So the boys were so terrified, they immediately removed the disguise, and sure enough, there was an iron mortar and pestle along the folds of the sari, and Samba was really frightened. So immediately all the Yadava elders got together and they decided that they must get rid of this iron mortar and pestle immediately. So they powdered it into, they made a small, pounded it, made it into a powder, and they just flung the pieces into the ocean. One small piece of iron, however, could not be powdered. So anyway, they just flung it as it is. So off it went into the sea. Several years later, this is all forgotten, several years later, the Kurukshetra war, everything had ended, and the Yadavas had also grown into a very powerful and invincible community, and they were very proud of themselves because perhaps they felt Krishna was there with them and nothing could really happen to them. So they had grown they had grown very powerful and they became a very vain and proud community. They spent their time in vices. They drank themselves to a stupor, spent endless time in just idling away. So one fine evening, they were along the coast of the sea, and they were completely drunk, all of them, and they got into some kind of a discussion. The discussion became an argument, the argument became a verbal fight, one led to the other, and eventually they started fighting each other with all the weapons that they could find. Eventually there was nothing left, and then they found these tall blades of grass that was growing along the coast of the sea. They pulled out the blades of grass and they started hitting each other. Now these blades of grass were they were actually weapons, because they were born of those metal pieces that were thrown into the sea by the Yadavas several years ago. And finally the curse came true, and these weapons were so powerful that the Yadava community, all that they did was just, kill each other with this, and that brought an end to the entire Yadava clan. Okay, so Vyasanena tu murkhanam nidraya kalahenava. So they created this discord between amongst themselves. They fought amongst themselves and they were responsible for their own death. So Kavya Shastra Vinodena Kalo Gacchati Dhimatam Vyasanena tu Murkhanam Nidraya Kalahenava. Namo Namaha.